Hello, hello. Okay, we are live. Welcome to the first episode of the GM's Brew. For those of you who haven't been following the Twitter messages and stuff like that, this is going to be a weekly show by me, GM Gearnos, where I do some home brewing, talk about taking things from inspiration to adaptation to implementation in gaming and just generally, try and give a little insight and help some people out with some of the Dungeon Master and Game Master stuff. So, we have this big, beautiful, blank white space to our side, so let's get a little stuff filled in here. My plan today is to do a homebrew for a Spelljammer ship, for those of you who don't have the experience with it. Spelljammer was a second edition, AD&D second edition setting, which kind of blended sci-fi with fantasy. It was essentially D&D in space, and it's been a favorite setting of mine for a long time. It was replaced later by Planescape, where they took a more closer to the original D&D feel to it. So, with this stuff, there's a lot of concepts in Spelljammer that I'll go over as I'm designing the ship. But the first thing we want to do is get some inspiration. Now, I can think of a number of really famous sci-fi ships like Serenity, the Millennium Falcon, the Heart of Gold from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, or even the Resolute from Lost in Space. These really famous ships kind of have a common theme of small ships, small crew. You're not seeing this as the ship that fights the huge battle, at least not for very long. These are the ships that the adventuring party gets from place to place, which is a really great place to start for a tier 1 adventuring group. So we're going to use these as a kind of model for what we want our ship to be. So thanks to Ghost of Saltmarsh that came out, we have rule systems for vehicles now. And just going over them, don't want a huge vehicle. We want one to have space for about 7 people. So the keelboat from Ghost of Saltmarsh is a real great one for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. We're using the keelboat as a base for it, but that's not going to be the name of the ship. That's just what kind of ship it's based on. So we're going to just use a placeholder for the ship's name. And then we need to note down information like the size of the ship. The keelboat is considered a gargantuan vehicle. It's 60 feet by 20. And so already we know we're doing a little idea of what we're dealing with here, just because it's longer than it is wide. It's not super huge, so it's compact, which makes it going to be difficult on longer journeys. And we'll get into journey length and stuff like that either later in this episode or in another episode where I'm doing a base adventure for a Spelljammer setting. So let's see here. We don't want it to require the full party, so let's go with a capacity of 3 crew and 4 passengers. This way we have it set up so not everyone in the party has to be active all the time. They can rotate shifts to keep the Spelljammer ship moving, or some people can rest or even get a hireling to pilot and navigate while the crew is off doing other things. Let's see here now. Keelboats have a cargo capacity of about half a ton, which is pretty good. the Spelljammer helm that we saw featured in Tome of the Mad Mage says that it only functions on vehicles that are from 1 to 100 tons. So, since we don't know exact weight of the keelboat by itself, going with a smaller ship makes it a lot easier to basically ensure that we keep to the rules, and we can always come in and adjust it as the players expand the ship or get more upgrades to it. So let's see here. Yeah, since we already have capacity listed for crew, just to keep it from being confusing, we'll have creature capacity of that and cargo capacity, and we'll go ahead and keep the cargo capacity of the base keelboat for now, because moving half a ton of equipment, even if like we're going into the whole Firefly and Millennium Falcon, this is a smuggling ship, then it's unlikely that they're going to be smuggling more than half a ton worth of goods or supplies. You don't want a huge amount of stuff that you're smuggling through a checkpoint or anything like that. You want, you know, it stashed in the corner or under plating and stuff. So, the base travel pace for a keelboat is 3 miles per hour, which comes out to about 72 miles per day. And this is making assumptions that you're either traveling with, either traveling by sail or by oar, which we will actually get into, so holding on to this is a good idea, but we are also going to grab the travel pace of the Spelljammer helm, which I believe is through helm travel. You can move up to speed in miles per hour equal to the highest spell level. Level unexpended. So with Spelljammer and other Spelljammer ships, what happens to move them through space, or as it's called in the original system, wild space, and the Philogasm, is a spellcaster has to sit in the seat, and essentially their magic is what propels the ship through either the air or through the space. Let's see here. Spell slot in water. And it moves at helm with helm travel. Speed is the wording on this is going to have to be reworked a bit, but basically it is with helm travel, miles per hour equal to your highest spell level unexpended spell slot in water. And oh, hey Meryl. Oh, hi Equilibrium. Didn't see you were in there either. So already we're getting a little bit bogged down on wording. If you're starting to get bogged down on wording when it comes to homebrew, just put down the basics of what you're trying to say. Even if it's not 100% articulated, you will understand what you're trying to say. And you can always go back and revise later if it doesn't make sense or if you didn't word it properly. Because all homebrew needs to be tested, which means you have to show it to someone else eventually. And let's see here. Miles per hour to your highest level on a XP in DED spell slot times 10 in air or space. So, I mean, you can use a Spelljammer helm just to, putter around the sea some if you want, but you get the real speed when you take it up into the air or when you take it into wild space or into the Phylogasm. So, again, we're covering things that'll just come into play later as we're detailing more stuff. Okay, so let's see here. One thing I really like about how Ghost of Saltmarsh did vehicles is that it acknowledges that they have the potential for intelligence stats, even if by default there's none. So let's just record the base stats of the keelboat. And since we're just using... Oh, sorry. Since we're just using the base stats, and this is a small ship, it's not super strong, so it uses a 16 as its strength, a 7 dexterity. It's not super maneuverable, but don't expect a lot of maneuverability from your ships. And con is 13. And this is a notation style that I like to use with most of my homebrew blocks, the number and then the modifier, just because you don't have to want to always be going back and looking up like what the modifier is. And there's a rule of thumb, a quick way to do it if you don't want to write this down, which is basically just if it's a positive modifier, subtract 10 from your total and then divide by 2. So for example, the 16 minus 10 would be 6, divided by 2 is 3. But doing a lot of math doesn't really, help when you're doing the design process or when you're in the heat of figuring out, okay, are they going to be able to push through this thing or not? So, that's just the way I like to note stats. Let's see here now. Damage immunities. So, the ship being an inorganic thing and not even technically alive is, of course, immune to poison and psychic. Now, that psychic immunity may go away if you get, like, a ship that is self-aware, because it'll have an awareness. Same thing with the poison immunity may go away if you have a organic or living ship. So, don't just, like, copy and paste the stat block. If you're changing things, make sure you keep what you change consistent throughout. Okay, so, but since this is not a living ship and this is not an aware ship, it will maintain its immunity to poison and psychic. And it has several condition immunities. Because it has no eyes, it can't be blinded. Because it has no awareness, it can't be charmed. Same thing with deafened, since it has no ears and can't hear. Exhaustion, it doesn't get tired because it has no muscles. You can't scare a boat unless it's a self-aware boat, so frightened. Incapacitated, basically the only way to incapacitate a ship is to like sink it, break it, beach it, which doesn't really work with the incapacitated condition, so because ships don't make death saving throws. Paralyzed, because, yeah. Petrified. Poison. Prone. A prone ship. Capsizing. Yeah. Unconscious. So, and again, remember, if you're doing a different kind of ship than a basic, like, wood and nails, if it's a living ship that's, like, grown from a tree, or if it's, like, a ship that has a magical artificial intelligence awareness to it, then it may be vulnerable to psychic damage. It could possibly be charmed. I mean, I would love to see, like, a ship with an AI or a magic awareness, you shush, becoming like charmed and going, "I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that." So, another thing that I really like about how they did the vehicles, and something I'm hoping that they continue when they do the vehicles in Descent into Avernus, but even if they don't, I can see you using this methodology for, like, a caravan of orc war wagons, is the actions methodology for it. So basically, with the vehicles, what you do is it gets a number of actions on its turn, depending on how many crew, how much of the crew is active. So in the case of the keelboat, and we are not calling it a keelboat, we will need to come up with a name. If anyone has any name ideas, something like, you know, the Millennium Falcon, Serenity, Heart of Gold, an evocative name, feel free to throw it up in chat, and I'll see which ones come up, and we can get an actual name for this crowdsourced. Name, and take 2 actions from the... It can take only 1 if it has only 1 crew. It can't take these actions if it has no crew. So, again, going into the changing this around for different versions of it. If you have a self-aware ship, you could give it the ability to handle its own business of sorts by saying it can take 3 actions from choosing from the options below. It can only take 2 actions if it has only 1 crew member, and if it has no crew, it can still take 1 action to represent the ship being self-aware and capable of directing itself. Okay, let's see here now. So, there's not a lot that it can do. Since this is a small one, we're going to give it a method of defending itself, because what player would get on a ship that has no capacity of defending itself? I'm going to bold this since this is an action. And when you're doing homebrew, it helps to use different fonts or bold or italicize specific things. In fact, now that I'm thinking about that, I'm going to go through and bold key information so that we can find it a little bit faster at a glance. But this is just another little, this is what works for me. I generally will bracket something that I intend to come back and change the name of, or that I haven't come up with. Later, use a underscore or a, what's it called? The thing, Control Shift 8, asterisk, if it's something that needs further revision, and a couple other things. I'm not going to bold damage immunities or condition immunities just because those are not going to come into play very often, unless because they're just immune to so much stuff, or not immune to much at all. So don't need to go ahead and pull that back. Yeah, I know about the whole Streamlabs having issues. I am tweaking it to be less, what's the word for it, authoritarian. And it's one of those we're working on it over time. I would love to start getting more and more regular people that I could deputize to become a moderator for this channel in general, but specifically for the Second Sight Agency or the upcoming Shadowrun game. So let's see, where were I? Ballista. Okay. The name. Campfire. It's... And that is on in the DMG. I believe chapter 8. So that way you don't have to copy all the rules for the ballista into here. You can just reference it, and most people who have access to the DMG or who can do a basic Google search are able to find like what the ballista does. Let's see here, and move. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, it can move the name. Can use its helm to move with its oars, sails, or helm. And you'll notice that helm, I've used it twice in this sentence. I've left lowercase in the first instance because we're referring to a place on the ship, the helm of the ship. But we also have an item on this ship called the helm of blank, or the Spelljammer helm. So, there we go. It's always important to differentiate. So after that, we have like the different sections, because you can target different sections in combat against each other. Let's see here. Oh, I'm getting... There's a lot of people talking. Huh, okay. Da-da-da-da. I actually really like the idea of, like, the jellyfish-style ship, Zizba. It's just one of those... That would be an organic ship, which could be very, you know, if you were doing Ravnica in space, it would be kind of a simic type of ship, or an organic elf, sea elf kind of ship. I will look into Nightbot. I've never heard of that one, but yeah. Catching up on everyone talking. Would be able to get a sealed bond. Are you here after no bonus? Tux is actually a player on... Yeah, like Zizva said. Tux plays Fairdeer on the Second Sight Agency campaign that we air Sundays at 10 a.m. I almost said 10 p.m. I actually really like the idea. Ziz, Tux, Meryl, if you're still in here, we'll talk about getting y'all modded, and y'all will have to be signed in and watch it, but we'll talk about that later. So let's see here. We're on to the different sections. I'm going to just put a little, since we're moving from the general stats to the specific stats of parts of it. So the ship has an AC. And you'll notice that the general ship itself doesn't have an AC. Because shooting at one part versus another gives you a more interaction and control over if you want to target their hull to keep them from being able to move, or target the weapon to keep them from being able to fight back. But most of the ACs on this are about... Oh, forgot to turn off bold. 15 points 100. These are... The hull is like, you know, the body of the ship. It's not easy to just shoot holes in it unless... Really? Okay. So, let's see. And it has a damage threshold of 10. For those of you who are not familiar with it, damage threshold basically means if the hull gets hit and it doesn't take at least 10 points of damage, it takes no damage. If it takes more than 10 points of damage, it takes the full damage. You can't really paste links right now because, again, of the whole issue with the StreamBot. If you want to whisper the link to this page. I whispered the bonus roll. I will take a look at it and we'll see what we got as an option. Thank you for trying to help us, though. Really appreciate that. So, control. Helm. Oh. Oh, okay, I see what happened with my notes. See, I ended up taking notes on 2 columns where I would generally prefer to take notes on one section and just do a full column length instead of splitting it between 2. So the control helm is where control of the ship would be issued from. It's the steering wheel, or in this case, where the spelljamming helm is located. AC 12 hit points. And you'll notice I'm sometimes forgetting to switch back and forth from bolded to not bolded. That's just trying to get into the flow or being deeper in the flow than I would like. Okay, let's see here. Move up to speed of one of the ship's movement with 190 turn. Now, if you're having a more agile ship, you can represent that in 2 ways. You can increase the dexterity, which will help it against dexterity saving throws, which the ship can still make. But you can also increase the radius of the turn. So a faster, more agile ship would be able to do a 90-degree turn or even a 180-degree turn in its movement. Whereas a slower, less maneuverable one may be limited to a 45-degree turn or something like that. I don't recommend going below a 90-degree turn because you're working on grids more often than hexes. And anything below a 90-degree turn will be easier on a hex than on a grid. If the helm is destroyed, the name can't turn. Okay, so now we're having movement systems such as the oars and the sails. And even with a spelljamming helm making it capable of flying through space and stuff like that, the oars would still be useful if, like, say you've touched down. And the sails would be useful in the phylogasm because there is a current that runs through that would move your ship faster than just even your spelljammer, especially at low level where you're kind of limited to, at level 1, the most you would be able to do is 10 miles per hour on the ship, which is still pretty fast. But yeah, so let's see here. Oars, AC. Those have an AC of 12. Hit points of 100 at 100. But if it takes damage, minus 5 feet speed per 25 damage. So the same thing, this same notation could be applied to the Spelljammer helm itself, whereas it's taking damage, it slows down more and more until it just stops functioning. Now the oars are only going to really work in water just because they need a physical substance, so we will include the water tag on these. Of 20-foot movement. That's a decent amount of movement for them. Let's see here now. Oh, I messed that up. I'm trying to minimize the extra spaces between these, just because otherwise this is going to be a pretty big document. And I mean, that's why they do most of the stuff in columns in the official books or in most of the homebrew. So you can compress more information in a smaller space. Let's see here now. The other type of movement, sails. Now, this type of movement will work even if you're not in the in a wild space or on a ocean, because if you're in an atmosphere, there's wind, which you can still use to propel yourself. But there's also, like I've been mentioning throughout this, the phylogasm. And what the phylogasm is this very dense mist-like substance that fills the space between crystal spheres. And there is a current that flows through it. So in this case, the sails, and when you're in the phylogasm, would catch that current and propel you through it. So let's see here. Control B, AC, 12, because they are sails and not super tough. And I'm just using a general abstraction for most of this. I'm just almost copying large portions of the keel boat, because that's what we're going to use for a base, and we can go back and modify it later. I was half considering just copying it and having it waiting on a document beforehand, but I figure as I'm typing it down, I can talk to y'all about what each of these things is and my ideas for adjusting them. Let's see, hit points 100. And just like the ores, if they take damage per 20 damage, this will make them less effective, which will, incentivize protecting them or the sails, or keeping them from being, or actually, give, if you're attacking the ship, incentive to target those versus the helm or the hull. So. And in the keel boat from Ghost of Saltmarsh, it has the water tag like the oars do, but since we have a logical reason for it to be working in spaces other than just in water, we're going to leave that tag off of the movement speed for sails. 25 feet, 15 feet, while sailing into the wind, and 35 feet while sailing with the wind. And we're going to change, do /current for now, since we'll be using the phylogasm current as a other means of propelling the ship. And now the part I've been waiting for. Control B, movement, Spelljammer helm. Now the Spelljammer helm is a magic item that's created by a specific race that generally they only hand out, and there's a lot of lore behind this that I'm not going to get too deep into, just because that is a series all of itself. But let's see here, Spelljammer helm, so passive property, oh wait, nope, AC, hit points and stuff like that. So this is a magic item, so it is pretty tough. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 15 AC, just like the hull, because just like the hull, it's vital to the functioning of this thing. And it doesn't have HP because it's a magic item, and generally magic items do not have hit points. There are a couple of exceptions, but as is very popular to say, there's an exception to every rule and a rule to every exception. So it has no HP, but we will make it so targeting the helm will help by saying -5 feet speed per 20 damage directed at Spelljammer helm until end of turn. And this represents the Spelljammer helm if it's being used as the primary means of propulsion. When it suffers the attack, the spellcaster that is attuned to it feels the impact, and their connection with the helm is temporarily disrupted and makes it harder for them to direct it. So, you know, it removes like the whole, oh, they have a Spelljammer helm, we shouldn't bother shooting at their sails or their oars, they'll just Spelljammer away. Let's see here now. So, there are some restrictions, but we don't need to go over like the whole, it can only be put on a vessel between 1 and 100 tons, but there is some important notes. So, speed. And this goes back up towards the speed thing that I was listing earlier, so we'll just go up and grab that part. Miles per hour. Do not be afraid to copy and paste. It makes your life significantly easier. Do be afraid about messing up when it comes to a bolding and stuff like that, because it's super inconvenient, but it makes things easier when designing notes. Okay, so that's its speed. Oh, I hate it when we move to another page. So let's see. In addition to those properties, those restrictions and the movement, it has a couple passive properties. So now these are things that function no matter if someone is attuned to it or not, simply because it's installed on the ship. Let's see here now. The helm generates an envelope of fresh air around the ship while it is in the void of space, but not underwater, because then you would be able to, I know boats don't use miles per hour, but this is just an abstraction to make it simpler to figure movement, because all the other terrain-based movement is done in miles per hour or miles per day, such as using a cart and a horse. Additionally, while we're using a ship as the base, the Spelljammer helm is actually more efficient functioning in the air, in which case it would be, you know, using whatever planes use, or in space, which would be using whatever a spaceship uses. But like I said, this is an abstraction, and this is just to give us a general idea of, okay, this is roughly how fast it goes, to calculate how long a journey would take. So if you have something that's, say, 300 miles from one city to the next, and you know that this ship can travel 10 miles in a day, 10 miles an hour, then you have, you can spelljam on a planet. It's generally not seen much on, like, you know, the core worlds like the Forgotten Realms Torel. But yeah, spelljammers work pretty much anywhere. Some of them even work underwater. I was about to say that this helm doesn't generate its oxygen envelope underwater. Hey Amy, I'll be happy to give you an opinion on a creature idea you have. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about it, or whisper the page, and I will get back to you as soon as I'm taking a little bit of a break on this. Oh wow, we've been going for almost an hour already. So anyway, as I was saying, this helm doesn't generate its oxygen envelope underwater, but you could conceivably have one that does. So, just an important note to make. Let's see here. The envelope, ENVELOPE, out from the edges of the hole in all directions for a distance dist equal in length to the vessel's beam. For those of you that don't know, a vessel's beam is basically the width of a ship. So in this case, since it's a 60 by 20, there would be a 20 feet from the edge of the ship to out that is breathable oxygen. So that creatures aboard and near the ship can breathe. Now, I like the sci-fi ship of an encapsulated ship, but the original Spelljammer ships were all like ships, like boats. Amy, just like whisper the page. Like send the page a direct whisper as opposed to like just trying to post it, and I will read the message out loud. That's the best I can do right now. I'm sorry, because I need to sit down and fiddle with Streamlabs a little bit more. I am aware of this. It's been on my to-do list for a bit. Okay, let's see here now. Shadowzard, thank you for sending me the link. I will be sure to check that out as well once we're finished here. Let me pull my stuff back up. Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? There you are. Okay. Okay, but yeah, I mean, that's what I'm here for, is about talking about ideas, inspirations, and adaptions. So where was I? Okay, yeah, we were talking about the oxygen envelope and how the fact that Spelljammer ships aren't enclosed necessarily. So the fact that they're not necessarily enclosed requires a secondary feature of the passive property in the case of artificial gravity. Otherwise, people would just float away from it and start suffocating. So let's see. The helm generates an artificial gravity while the ship is in the void of space. That can walk on the ship's deck as they normally would. And objects that fall overboard bob in a gravity plane that extends out from the main deck for a distance equal in length to the vessel's beam. And again, the beam is the width of the ship. So just like the oxygen envelope, the gravity envelope would extend about 20 feet around. Yeah, I guess you could surround it with a bunch of plankton. Okay, so got that whisper from Amy Chibi. Let's take a look here what we got. Okay, so it is an airplane creature, a living cloud that feeds by sucking heat, humidity, and area. When it's full, it discharges acid. That's a really interesting idea. I could see this creature using the elemental sub-base, you know, like most other air elementals and stuff like that. And since it absorbs heat and humidity, have it do either cold damage in the case of it's drawing the heat out of people, chilling them, and dealing cold damage to them, or maybe even necrotic damage as a kind of desiccation, dehydration effect. Because we have a couple, I think it's Invenerate, that does necrotic damage via dehydration of body. With the Acid Rain, I can see this as being either statted up as an area of effect, like you see with a lot of like the lair effects of some of the higher rank creatures, where they have this effect that just permeates the area where they reside. Like, for example, the White Dragon, their lairs are just a constant blizzard. And so you can do it like that to represent, like, every X amount of time a player spends in the area, they must make a Constitution check to avoid taking, like, say, 1d6 cold damage. And when a amount of damage equal to, say, 30 damage has been dealt to anyone in the area, a acid rainstorm happens, and anyone that is left outside must make a dexterity saving throw to avoid taking 1d6 acid damage per round for the length of the storm. That's very much a, this is happening, you need to get to cover right away. So I honestly really like the idea, and I would love to see, like, you set it out. And if you want some help setting it out, I will be doing a Monsters Brew in a couple weeks, so please come back for that. Alright, so let's see here now. Back to the Spelljamming Helm. Let's see here now. So, this is like, if you look at this, that is a big block of text. It's kind of intimidating, so what I'm going to do is separate the effects a bit more noticeably. There we go. See, now, big blocks of text, people will look at that and their eyes will just glaze over. Oh, thank you, Amy Chibi. I really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing the idea. So, let's see here. Yeah, no, if this becomes like a weekly show, which I would really like to, I would love to do, like, maybe once a month. Bring me an idea, and I will discuss how to make it work. Let's see here. So, now we go on to the active properties. So, I'm thinking for my next GM's Brew next week, to continue this Spelljammer series, I will do, let's say 2 or 3 little mini adventure areas. Not necessarily like a full-blown campaign or anything like that. Oh, I will just unmod Streamlabs. Oh, no, I can't unmod Streamlabs because that's what I use for the giveaway. I'll figure it out, I promise. It's been on my to-do list long enough that it's getting bad. That's right, you have. For those who don't know, Ziziva plays on the Bonus Roll Second Side Agency campaign on Sundays at 10 a.m. She plays Ingrid. Let's see here. Active properties. So, let's give a little bit of a flavor for this, because we got enough of it done that it's time to start injecting some flavor. So, to the helm feels like being in warm water. For those of you who've seen, like, Cowboy Bebop, I have, like, a mental image, not of, like, just a chair, but, like, a kind of capsule that the spellcaster enters into, like, I can't remember her name. Mia or something like that, I think? Where the pilot of, or the nav system of the ship enters into the pod and it just kind of fills with this liquid and she kind of floats in it. and something like that, just to give an homage to that. So when you're actively attuned to the Spelljamming Helm, it feels like you're just kind of floating in a pool of warm water, precog style. Yeah, this would be a item, and I'll discuss, like, let's see here. I guess I've been saying I'll discuss it for a little while. How Spelljammer works is there is a multiverse of prime material worlds. So you have one world here that's like Torel and the solar system it inhabits, and you have another world over here that's the world of Greyhawk and its systems, and you have a world over here that is like Eberron. And each of these solar systems is encapsulated in a kind of crystal bubble shell that separates it from the greater multiverse multi-system. And so what you could do is, with the Spelljammer ships, with the envelope and with the gravity, you leave the planet and you can travel to like the edge of that crystal sphere and hunt for it. And I would hunt for like a portal or a means through it. So I would say using like the same rule sets as Pandemonium, I think it would. No, the Astral Sea, I think it is. It would say, like, you have to hunt for a portal if you don't have a means of opening your own. And I'd say take 1d4 times 10 hours to find a random portal that is 1d6 times 10 feet in diameter. So you may find a portal that's only like 10 feet wide, that's not wide enough to fit your 20-foot wide ship through. So you have to search for another one. And each of these portals... Oh, yeah, I'm about to get to that. So each of these portals would take you outside the crystal sphere into the phylogasm, the flow. And what the flow does is it's a current that runs between all the crystal spheres. So you could either use the Spelljamming Helm if you have a high enough wizard, or because with this one we have a speed set up for the sails to move at 35 feet per turn while it's in the current. But if you have, say, like a level 9 wizard, that's 90 miles per hour, which is, I don't want to do the math right now, but pretty fast. I mean, for general purposes, in this case, I would say abstract the travel time, unless the players have like some activity they want to do, or if you have a encounter that you want to trigger during this travel. So say like, oh, you're going from Toril to Eberron. Well, those are pretty far apart. It'll take you about 2 weeks in the phylogasm to make that trip. And so you can either gloss over that 2 week, or you can do the travel montage. You can go like, hey, y'all notice this off to the side. Generally, if there is a reason for something, include it. So, having a wandering monster hit the party, just to have a wandering monster hit the party, doesn't do as much for the story, and can actually, risk accidentally TPKing your guys in a really bad roll. But oh hey, you notice that there is this floating demiplane off to the side of the phylogasm. Do y'all want to take a... actually, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to go back and do... thank you, Amy. Amy asked if the item protects against the cold in space. So let's go like this air. And a comfortable temperature is a comfortable 70 degrees. And see, that's exact like what Amy Chibi here asked. Well, again, this is an abstraction. You don't want to fly into a sun, but cosmic radiation is kind of a little bit different than, like, that's a real science thing. You can definitely include that, and I would really recommend using the spell, I can't remember what the exact name, it's Wasting Light or something like that, to abstract a kind of radiation effect. But for the most part, the phylogasm is a travel medium. Yeah, it'll function a little bit like a Leomund's Tiny Hut, Zizva. Okay, so completely got lost on that, and I love that. We're getting near the end of like what I houred, but I want to get at least a little bit more of this done. So let's see here. Let's see here now. Why do I keep on defaulting to Final Fantasy? I don't know. Okay. You can use the helm to propel the vessel. And since we're running near the end of it, let's go ahead and say everyone throw up like any other ideas for ship names and any other questions you may have, and I'll get to those in a second and before we wrap up for the day. Let's see here. You can propel the vessel across or through. And I'm basing a lot of the Spelljammer stuff off of the helm of the Scavenger that was detailed in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So, like everything else, this is all flexible and alterable. I mean, I know in the original Spelljammer, there was a Spelljamming helm that was dwarf themed that you piloted and propelled it via crafting. And so you would have dwarves making just ungodly amounts of stuff to keep their ship moving. And there were monk ships that was powered by the monk's key and meditation. So don't be afraid. And there is a really great article up right now on D&D Beyond if you have an account there called Adapting Other Genres to D&D by James Hake. I don't know how to actually pronounce his name. But that's a really good. It was a really good read. I enjoyed that, and I encourage everyone to check it out. Oh, that's a really nice one. Piloted by demons, warlocks, maybe. That's yeah. Okay. Anyway, cross or through. I keep on getting distracted just because I want to talk to y'all, but I also want to finish this. So sorry, this is running a little overboard on like that whole short hour-long talk about stuff thing. I'm just going to just grab from my notes to kind of finish this off real quick, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get to that Q&A and naming the ship thing that well. Let's see here now. So, and cannot forget the drawback. So, okay, I'm just going to like drop a copy paste here. I would normally rewrite this and tinker with it a little bit as it's coming out, but this is basically what it says on the Scavenger for the functioning of the Spelljammer helm. I really like this drawback. While attuned to the helm, you can expend your own spell slots. It adds like a, are you sure you want to have your wizard, who is your primary spell damage dealer, hooked up to this? It forces players to make a decision one way or the other about, are we going to focus on one thing or another? And that's a great thing to do, I feel. So let's see here now. Close that. So let's take a look quick through here. We've had names like Jelly, Genesis, Quiddity, what else? You see, I really like what Amy's idea, Life Eater piloted by demons and warlocks. I could even see it as a pact ship, and maybe even a warlock pact to the ship, where you become a warlock by making this deal to captain the ship. And you can do that not just in Spelljammer, but you could do that in basic D&D as a way of getting like almost a Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's see here now. I like the Brass Knuckle. The Brass Knuckle is a good name, I feel. It's very much a, we are tough, we're fighters, we're like, you know, coming at things. It kind of feels in the same way like as Millennium Falcon and Serenity, but instead of just the Brass Knuckle, let's just call it Brass Knuckle. And actually, yeah, that's not a bad idea. As like an upgrade to it, we can, let's see here, Ram Plate. So, and this is like an equipped magic item for the thing, and what it is if the Brass Knuckle, KNU, well, right, no, okay, BRASSNUCKLE, travels, let's go 10 feet at least, 20. In a turn, and impacts a vehicle, it does damage as per a battering ram. Okay. So, yeah. And then I believe the battering ram as well as the ballistas under the DMG under Chapter 8. So just throw that for references at the end, just so. And I mean, this is basically it. Okay, so it's very generic, but it's great for starting. This is. I don't do a daily stream. We have several streams that we have planned. I plan on doing the GM's Brew once a week on Thursdays at about 2 to 3 Central Time, and we do a D&D stream called Second Sight Agency on Sundays at 10 a.m. We're working on a Friday evening game, Shadowrun, based on the Shadowrun 6th edition that just recently came out. And we generally do a giveaway at least on the Sunday D&D stream of a dice set. In fact, we've hit our goal for the week of followers, so this Sunday we will be giving away this set of dice on stream. So tune in and enter, which is the main reason why I haven't booted Streamlabs moderator to the thing, because I need it, because that's how I do the giveaways. So we've been running this for about an hour now. We've got a nice ship here. I'm going to upload this document to probably Dropbox or something, so it'll be available for download on our Twitch page down at the bottom. I'll include a link to GM's Brew Homebrew, and I know Zizva has a wiki that she has been working on for us, and I'll get her to add a link to it there. Yeah, it'll be on the wiki too. But yeah, I really think next week what I'll do is, now that we have the Brass Knuckle, we'll do, well, here, I'll leave that up to y'all. What do y'all think? Should we do a pre-generated crew for the Brass Knuckle next week? Or should we do a mini adventure set for the Brass Knuckle? A place for the Brass Knuckle to go to, something to do, and then a home they can head back to. And just, give me, whatever you think on that, and if anyone has any questions or thoughts, ideas, or even homebrew things that you need a hand with, go ahead and either ask them, whisper them, or something like that, and I'll just hang out here for the next, say, 10 minutes or so. Just relax, let my throat rest a bit because I forgot to grab a water bottle before I came back here. Okay, so crew first is what I'm seeing a couple people are liking. I mean, I'm going to do both. What I'm thinking is I'll do GM's Brew as a series, so I'll do the Spelljammer, then next week will be Spelljammer Crew, and the week after that will be Spelljammer Adventure, and then the last week will be a, like, say, a home base for the Spelljammer, or in this case, the Brass Knuckle. And actually, here, let me, Equilibrium came up with the name Brass Knuckle, right? Equilibrium, I am going to make sure to credit you in the document. Because credit where it is due. Yeah, sure. Whisper is fine. Just whisper the page. Most monsters don't really need to be adapted too much. I know that there, like, for example, in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, there's space orgs. Half orgs, however you pronounce their name, and really they're just orgs with a bubble dome helmet. But yeah, I'll do the crew next week using D&D Beyond just to. Yeah, I mean you Equilibrium. Yeah, I'm going to credit you because you came up with the name. Oh, it has. But yeah, we'll do say 4 crewmen, since this since the creature capacity on the Brass Knuckle is 3 crew and 4 passengers. That way we can have 3 players active and 1 player resting at any one time. And so, oh, you have a underscore at the end of your name, so want to make sure to include that. Yeah, that's going to be. I will do a. So, next series, as per the request of Ziziva, we will do a couple Feywild, but that'll be after the Spelljammer series. And once I compile these all into like one packet, I'll get them done up nice, and I'll put them up on the GM's Brew. And if you want to support the stream, you can get them off, not GM's Brew, sorry, that's the name of this show. I'll put them up on the DM's Guild. And if you want to support the stream, you can get the GM's Brew Spelljammer series off of there for whatever price you want to throw at us. Let's see here. Okay, I got Amy Chibi's thing. A mini quest, a small village. Oh, that's a nice little, like, hook. I really like that. I'm going to save onto that. It may not be. Yeah, I see it now, Amy. I may not use that in the upcoming one, but I can definitely see a couple ideas about there, especially with like that really strong like moral hook of, well, are you going to just walk away and let these people die? Here it is. What I don't want to give away the twist at it. But a mini quest, a small village. There are children and old people dying. Nobody has seen what is killing them. Oh, I really appreciate that. Hi, Rennings. Yeah, we're just about to the end of this, so yeah, I'm going to say like 9 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or other ideas that I could help them with? Amy should be. Sorry, I keep on shortening your name. I don't know if that is offensive or unfair or anything like that to you, but I will try to not do that. I just tend to shorten people's names. It's the same reason I call Tux789 Tux, and why I call Ziziva Ziz every now and then. So anyway, really appreciate everyone stopping in. This had a lot more people turning out than I could have possibly hoped. I'm really happy that so many of y'all seem to really like it. So here's the schedule for like the next 2 or 3 episodes. It's going to be, the next episode is the crew, and what I'll do is use D&D Beyond. Not necessarily their random generator, but just a basic crew block. Oh, excellent! It came in. I would love for you to take a photo if you could, and just like send it to us at the bonus roll on Twitter, and we'll retweet it. Or if you ever use it in a game, please like share with us. Let us know how it goes. Oh, Tugs, don't make me seem bad. No, yeah. Anyway, Rennings, I'm glad it came, and let's see, a war chief orc or half orc that has a hippo mount. That's an interesting one. You see, hippos are really, really freaking territorial. I don't think there's actually a stats for a hippo in the game. I would use a modified version of possibly the alligator, maybe? Yeah, probably like a modified version of the alligator. And I could see like the half-orc being the half-orc war chief being leader of this very river-based tribe that extorts a toll from people traveling up and down the river. So, like, say you're floating a cargo ship, and you don't stop and like pay respects and give a portion of your cargo to it. The orcs send the hippos to waylay and stop the ship, and then they board it and they take their fair share of stuff. So that's definitely a really interesting encounter idea. I would love to see that. Yeah, no, it would definitely need animal handling. Those things are mean. So yeah, as I was saying, next week we will do probably 4 characters. I'm just going to do them stat block style. I'm not going to do like the full character generator, but I will do like ideals, basic stats, and some other stuff, just to show how to customize NPCs. Because the Brass Knuckle could be a ship that your characters use, or it could be a ship that your characters encounter. And so maybe this ragtag bunch of adventurers encounters your players, and y'all team up to go and solve the mystery of why these children and old people are dying. But I really like this quest idea that Amy Chibi threw out. And we'll talk adventure composition and stuff like that at some point. But really, I just wanted to get this first episode done. I think it went really well. I really want to keep on doing this, and I hope everyone's really enjoyed it. If you have... yeah, naming characters is always my favorite part, too. If you don't already follow us, please follow us. The more followers we have, the farther along we get on the road to becoming Twitch affiliates, which will help offset some of the costs for like our wiki hosts and like the background music that y'all been hearing from Spotify, just the Twitch and stream. We have a wiki that's listed down at the bottom, and all of our previous games are up on YouTube. Let me just check the upload. I do believe episode 10, episode 10 of the Second Side Agency Farkeep is now up on our YouTube. I haven't added it to the playlist yet, but if you just search YouTube for the bonus roll or use the mini link that's down below, you can find all of our stuff up there. This episode of the GM's Brew will be edited and oh, those are some classic names there, Tuck. Smitty, Legs, Cap'n, Tommy. You need a cookie, though. But yeah, this episode will also go up on YouTube. You can see that this is a very basic overlay. I just wanted to get this thing started because I've gained so many ideas built up. The logo in the lower corner will probably be replaced with a in-screen of the chat, just so if I'm talking with y'all. If I'm talking with people in the chat, it'll actually show up on there, so I don't have to necessarily read everything that y'all are saying. So keep an eye out for us on Sundays for the Second Sight Agency. Follow us on Twitter at BonusRoll for updates and announcements. We'll look at doing this longer. Honestly, we're already like 18 minutes over what I expected to do. So, I really like that. I wanted to just do a basic, like, in and out hour, hey, this is what's going on, but, I don't know, next one may be an hour and a half, it may be 2 hours longer. You know what? 15 more minutes. I'm going to say we're going ahead and done with the Brass Knuckle. I would love to just hang out and chat with y'all a bit longer if y'all are cool with that. If y'all have any help that you need with a idea for a character or an encounter, let's talk about that for a bit now. Let me pull up my D&D Beyond stuff. I mentioned that. So my plan for the, let's see, siege equipment. Okay, ballista. Oh wow, ballista does a lot of damage. So yeah, ballista is a good one for that damage range. And okay, it's called a ram, not a battering ram. As a ram. So yeah, I mean, that would be +8 to hit and do 3d10 bludgeoning damage. So a decent roll, you could punch a good-sized hole in something's hull. Okay, so while I'm pulling some stuff together, does anyone have any encounters or monster ideas or anything like that that we can talk about? Oh, firearms, that's right. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and include a couple modified firearms in the crew section. Because guns are always fun. So, an item that grants great magical power but takes years from the user. Oh, happy to. Yeah. I love that kind of... I love those kind of, like, magic items, equilibrium, like that ring of teleportation you're talking about. But let's see here now. A magic item that grants great magical power, but it takes years of life from the user. So, See, this is going to be very much a form meets function kind of situation here. So, I'm seeing, like, let me just get to a fresh page. Let's call it the Blood Cloak. And what it does is, while wearing this cloak, if a player, let's see, no, not while wearing, oh wow, I misspelled that too, don't we try Ellie, attuned, and wearing this, L-O-A-K, while attuned, if they wear this cloak, receive. Okay, so what I want to do is have this item trigger on a crit. So the phrasing of it would be, while attuned, if the wearer of this cloak is struck and critical hit, they can roll a hit die and reduce the damage they take by that amount. So basically in this situation, say like you have a fighter wearing the blood cloak, and he takes a critical hit, and it's a bad critical, like it's 18-20 damage at level 3 or 4. He can spend one of his hit dice. So say he's like level 3, he has 3 hit dice because he's fresh into the adventure. He can spend one of his hit dice, so he'll only have 2 hit dice left. Roll the d10 and reduce that, say, 18 to 20 damage that he takes by 5 or maybe even 10 damage if he's lucky. So he's basically spending his blood and his health to reduce the damage that he's taking. So it has a net very negative cost because you don't get those hit dice back except for on a long rest, and you only get half of your hit dice back on a long rest. So if you have 4 and you spend 3, you take a long rest, you're only going to get 2 back. Which is why, you can't just like spend them willy-nilly, but this is like I would put this at about maybe, it's a really big drawback and it requires attunement. So I would put this at an uncommon, maybe a rare level. See, I really like that because Equilibrium suggested Torch of Dark Vision when let you gain 10 feet of dark vision. See, the thing is, dark vision counts as low light, which means you're rolling at disadvantage even if you have the dark vision, because low light is automatic disadvantage on visual perception checks. So let's see here now. Reincarnation weapons. Cast reincarnate upon killing a creature. I've actually seen an artifact that does something similar to that. And that's actually a good solution to like how did they make sure that, like, I could see like gnolls or some other creature with a limited form of that reincarnation weapon, where we killed something and it becomes us. So the more they kill, the more their ranks increase. Let's see here now. Let's see. Black Dragon eats oozes that have treasures. Black Dragons will eat pretty much anything, as I remember. I'd have to look at stuff up again. But it may be red dragons I'm thinking of, or black or gold dragons that have a diet that primarily consists of eating precious jewels and gems. But yeah, let's see here. But yeah, I like this the blood cloak. I really like this idea. I kind of want to do... I like that we don't have... I like the idea of using hit dice as a form of currency for stuff more than just healing on downtime. Because that adds an extra, like, okay, am I going to give up my potential health later for a boost now? But it could also be if I don't use this now, I'm not going to have any health later. So anything that forces a character or a player to make a decision like, do I want to use this now or do I want to use this later, is a good decision. The problem is you have players that like hoard their options, like the warlocks that can use, they take the invocations that you can cast, like say, I think it's summon elemental or something like that once per long rest by using a warlock spell slot. And so they never end up using it because it's like, oh, well, I may need to use it later. So make sure you tailor your magic items that you're creating for characters to the characters that are going to be using it. A useless creature that becomes better when killed. Like, say... Okay, I could see that as, like... I would want to do this, like... as an elemental, I think. And what it would be is, like... It starts out as an elemental in its larval form, and it just rushes into danger, I could see it being like this very aggressive creature where it's like it wants you to attack and kill it, because when it dies, it its death is kind of a larval form, and it becomes this undead, more powerful creature, kind of like a more lethal Magikarp to Gyarados transformation almost. So I could see that as a mechanic used in like an interesting little subset. And I can see like 3 or 4 different kinds of creatures that all have this mechanic that are the spawn of this kind of nest almost. But I'm going to probably come up with a couple other magic items based on the same use hit dice for effect. Grows when exposed to air. There's actually a really good mechanic in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica that as the weird takes more and more damage, it grows. And eventually, if it hits, like, I think it's large or gargantuan, it either splits or it explodes. And I could see the aggressive liquid using a similar concept, like, say, every 2 rounds it increases size category. So it starts tiny, and then 2 rounds later it's small, and then 2 rounds later it's medium, and then 2 rounds later it's large, and then it's either splits at the large, or it goes up to gargantuan, which is like huge, and then 2 turns later it explodes in this wave of force that just blows out windows and knocks everyone back, and all like the little scraps of it scatter and become their own tiny versions of the aggressive liquid. So I could see this as being like a interesting variant on like slimes and oozes, really. I really appreciate you being here, Amy Chibi. Thank you. This is, I mean, we've been watching a lot of the Davy Chappie videos, and he talks about how he's got a patron because he wants his life to become all about D&D. I look at that and it's like, you know, that is not the worst thing in the world. So, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is the structure of these is going to be an hour of me just chatting with y'all, with people watching, and doing homebrew, and then 30 minutes of answering questions, talking about homebrew ideas that any of our watchers may have. And I think that would be a good one. Oh, I love that idea. Yeah, that is how it ended up. That is what happened with the Blob at the end of that 50s movie. I really need to rewatch that. That's actually one of the things I've been wanting to talk about, is taking an inspiration, adapting it, and implementing it. Because that's my 3 steps. Like, for example, I was talking about how I'm using the idea of, like, the Serenity, the Millennium Falcon, these smuggling ships that are so classic at, like, the start of adventures. Y'all may notice I close my eyes when I'm, like, trying to think of something to say. That's just to cut out extra sensory input and focus my mind a bit more. So, sorry, it's not that I'm not looking at you or anything. Well, I guess I'm not looking at you. It's just something I've developed as a methodology of focusing my mind. So anyway, yeah, I think this is going to be the... yeah, Meryl had to head out, and Tux had to head out too. So it's just you right now, Zizva. Well, you and all of our wonderful visitors. I really appreciate y'all coming here and checking out and watching this. I feel like this has been a great success, Portal. Actually, yeah, let me talk about it. I'll add that to note of talking about, like, inspiration stuff later. We'll do the Spelljammer series that I talked about. I'll do, like, a little intermission where I talk about finding inspiration and adapting it and then implementing it. And then I'll start working on another series after that. So, I'm going to go ahead and say that this has been a great deal of fun. I really hope you all enjoyed it. I will get the Brass Knuckle finished up, streamlined, and sent off to Zizva to be uploaded to our wiki. If you're watching this later on YouTube, there will be a link to the wiki in the description. Please follow us on Twitch, on Twitter, at Bonus Roll. Sorry, wow, I have been talking for like an hour and a half, and so I'm starting to get a little... Anyway, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. I think that's all our social media right now. I may be forgetting something. If we start gaining enough followers, I will look into getting an actual patron set up, and then doing something like maybe a weekly patron adventure, where a couple members of the Patreon get to do an actual D&D session or some other session with me in one of my homebrew settings. So, I mean, just keep following us, keep an eye out. Really suggest following that Twitter handle, because that's where all of our announcements and art demos and like, hey, this is going on and this is going on, go up. Thank you so much, Amy Chibi. I'm glad I could read over a couple of these, and I'm really happy that y'all liked this show. So I'm going to go ahead and call it, because I need to get something to drink and need to start on dinner pretty soon. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and please come check us out this Sunday for the Second Sight Agency. We're playing Ravnica, a D&D game set in Ravnica using the 5th edition rules, and yeah, catch y'all later.